Good morning, everybody, and happy Father's Day to all the dads that are out there listening and watching the video this morning. And one of the greatest things I've ever got to do is become a dad, so I'm looking forward to spending a great day with my family. First thing I want to talk to you about is the storm reports from last night. There was a lot of severe weather once again right in the same corridor we keep talking about, this region right in through here, and it's not done yet. But we just added another 343 reports of severe weather, including a lot of severe winds, and that was one of the bigger concerns about yesterday. But if we just take a look back at the total amount of precipitation out of that system, we can see that in the last 72 hours, and not only did we continue just to add flooding rains, hail, and strong winds to this area, plus isolated tornado events that came through here, but it also did finally produce some rain in some key areas that desperately needed it. Now, what I'm talking about here is how the rain went through last night in parts of Iowa. Now, we've been kind of doing something different with these maps. We've been lopping off everything below ½ inch just to see where we would consider the more significant rains to have gone through. And so this is the latest update on that map. So everywhere that you see color on this map at least saw a ½ inch of rainfall. So, we've been thinking a lot about this particular section of the Corn Belt as being missed out on a lot of these systems. And so to see some rain coming into Iowa was critical. Going forward, the overall news in this area did not turn in a favorable direction in the overnight model runs. And I'm going to get to that right away. For those of you that's got to get on with your day, this is what we see. So when you take the 0Z run, which is the most recent available, and subtract from it the 12Z run, that was the previous one that was available, everywhere that you see in these colors got wetter and in these colors got drier. So there was a lot of folks here that just saw the model trend significantly wetter as the forecast evolved. But then in parts of Illinois, no change. Iowa got a little drier. Parts of Minnesota, sections are getting drier. And we see Wisconsin with overall no change. And I'm just focusing in on these areas given how dry things have been right in through here. Also, pretty significant change in Nebraska as well. We're going to kind of show you where this is and what's going on in a few moments. And the models have really been flip-flopping back and forth for the Carolinas and Virginia. Remember yesterday we saw a major dry trend. Well, they've now gone over wetter. And I'm going to show you why that happened in a few moments. But do notice that sections of North Carolina have gotten much drier. So we're just concerned about these drier spots overall and what the upcoming forecast trend is looking like. The second part to this is what's going on out there in week 2. Now, we'll take a closer look at this in a few moments, but if you only had 90 seconds today, I wanted to get you to this part. This is where we saw the models yesterday kind of pull back on the dry conditions, and now we've kind of seen them reinsert that. So wetter New England, wetter along the East Coast in week 2. The ridge over Texas is drier and hotter. But this is this area that just continues to struggle to see moisture return. Despite pattern shift, despite breaking down what's going to be, you'll see in a few months, a huge ridge that's going to build into this area over the next 5 to 7 days. The whole pattern collapses, but does not seem to be able to return moisture to this area. And we're now getting to that point of the year that recycled moisture, that's water that's in the vegetation, that's in the soil, is critical to thunderstorm development. And so we worry about the longevity of the drought that's in this area. So I want to show you yesterday's imagery here. This is radar imagery. So you can see the deeper wave coming into the west. Then we're going to talk about how cold it's going to get here in a few moments. This is the complex of storms that rolled out. There's actually both a synoptic and a mesoscale low with this. And we were going to watch these storms as they went through last night, producing a lot of damaging wind right in here. Look at this large squall line rolling through. But you also noticed, if you're in Iowa here, you can see, watch it again, moisture. There were storms coming through last night, and I'm desperate to hear some thunder. I don't know if I've told you guys this before. I think I have, but I live right over here, and I'm in one of those really, really dry spots in the country right now. So the severe weather today is expected. Once again, there's an enhanced risk down in Louisiana, Arkansas, through Mississippi, Alabama, with a larger area around it with slight risk of severe storms. And as we look out there to day 2, it's going to go down to the Gulf Coast. And once we get out there to day 3, we see a couple of things changing. Still more strong to severe storms here, but we're going to be watching a new system possibly develop the risk of strong storms up here in parts of the Dakotas as well. This will be on the 20th. All right, near-term forecast. Let's go to the high-res NAM and pick this up where those thunderstorm complexes moved through early this morning. We see the rain trying to move into southern Minnesota. This is very light rain overall early this morning and into Wisconsin. You see coming through Missouri, coming through this part of Iowa. Hopefully, we're watching storms redevelop here. We're going to hopefully watch some storms redevelop in this area this afternoon. There are some good model indications of that, but you're going to watch another low skip farther to the south. And as that low curls up over parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, this is a spot that desperately needs rain. So it's good to see this. It's coming down back through parts of the southeast. And then you're going to notice at the end of this animation two things. A lot of precip throughout the northwest, and watch the low that's over parts of Kentucky here. It just curls up and sits there. And that's a really important thing that's happening in this pattern. And the unfortunate thing about this pattern is where like I talked about earlier this week, the saddle point is. So this is the issue. Once we get out there to the 20th and 21st, there's a very deep trough in the west. This ridge comes up here and breaks over parts of Ontario and Quebec. And then the flow comes right back around out of the east here and then gets sucked around this trough that's tucked away parts of the southeast. Overall, this was pretty well predicted, but you just see how stagnant the flow is in between here. And then the fact that the flow is coming out of the east in this direction, that is not the right direction to deliver moisture to the midsection of the country. This is the large subtropical ridge we've been keeping an eye on, moving back and forth from Texas to Mexico. That's good. We need to see that kind of shoot the subtropical jet through, and there's still some indications of that. But this is our tropical system right down here. It's not yet been named. There's still about a 90% chance of it developing, but I'll show you where that's going to go in a few moments as well. Okay, bigger picture. Let's look at the upper level flow pattern. The bullseye on this is this deep trough that comes through by Tuesday into Wednesday that just dives into the into the western United States. But the flow is highly amplified around this, and it's almost going to break here and curl up around this low that you see in this area. So again, see how far the spacing is of the isobars? That's extremely weak flow in that area. So we get out here to Thursday into Friday, and during that time period, we just have this breaking wave goes over the top here, and you get this high over low setup. And this means that if you are inside of this ridge axis here, there's nothing. There's just no moisture. While this thing sits and spins and just delivers rain, in this area, it's not the right setup to deliver rain on the backside. So then what we do is we go into this weekend. This is now next Sunday, and we're going to watch for this. It's been in the models several times. It's Monday the 26th. There's a trough coming through here, and we would expect to see showers and storms out ahead of this. Problem is that the model is not yet fully or really resolving heavy rainfall out of it. It could be the fact that it's kind of coming from this direction, and rather than maybe a trough that comes from this direction, that it just doesn't make the hard pull on the moisture in the Gulf. But the other issue is that the subtropical ridge is here and not there to pump the moisture in. So it's going to be starved for moisture as it comes through here. So here's the latest updates from our models. This is the next 7 days from the WPC. So a lot of thunderstorm activity that's going to run from parts of Nebraska, here to this part of northern and northwestern Minnesota. We see very heavy rains down in the southeast, but with the depth of this trough coming in the west, cooler but drier. And again, we continue to monitor the Great Lakes Basin for missing out on a lot of this precipitation. Next, let's go to the European model. So we just play through Tuesday into Wednesday, and out there to Friday. Let's just stop it right here. Let's just go all the way out 168 hours. So this will be next Saturday night at 7 p.m. You can see we have places down here that might be picking up anywhere between 4 to 5 inches, maybe some places higher in the Appalachian Mountains. And again, remember, the reason for this is you're going to get flow coming out of this direction into this area. And remember, the flow is coming around here like this. So we just try to look at this and say, where is that kind of cutoff? Where are these places that are not getting anything? It's kind of right in there through that shape that I drew. Maybe I should have included a bit more in through here. So that's what we're seeing in the European model. If we flip over to the GFS, just play out the same time period, we still get that same look. By the time the GFS gets out here to next Sunday, Monday, you see that trough coming in. I'm watching specifically right here. There's the potential for quite a bit of moisture to come through parts of the Midwest. But again, it's day 7, day 8, day 9 that we're going to be watching that trough sweep through there and bring in some moisture. We need every bit we can wring out of this. Now you also see that the GFS, watch down here, is trying to still produce this system, the tropical system, out of the Caribbean, go over parts of Cuba toward Florida. This is, again, just kind of only really seen in the GFS. We'll go back and take a look and see if it's in the other models. But one more time, I want to show you, because I stopped this on Saturday night. you'll see here that the European model brings that system through Monday into Tuesday. I'm watching right in through here, but starves it for moisture and doesn't really deliver a whole lot of heavy rain into some of these key acres that need to see moisture coming in before we start to see significant yield loss. So from there, what's the probability of getting at least an inch of rain in the next 10 days? Well, very wet where the trough comes in through here. In fact, I got to talk to you about snow in this area. And then you can see that the large area of the northern plains and central plains has better than a 50 to 90% chance of seeing at least an inch. And then, of course, down here in the southeast, we'll go up to 2 inches. You still see almost 100% chance. You go up to 4 inches right up here against the Appalachian Mountains. That's where the ensembles have also trended that wet. So important to see this, how much flooding we could be experiencing in this section of the country. From here, what does the week 2 look like? So the most generous is the CPC. Now you see they got near normal chances here, but they're wetter in a lot of places except for down in the southwest. The European's drier there, and so is the GFS. The GFS is still too dry along the Gulf Coast. It just seems to always be too dry here. Notice the European's wetter, and so is the CPC. But this was the trend that was disappointing the overnight runs. And that's what we're going to continue just to monitor to see if that has any potential around the 24th or 25th to get better moisture in there. Let's flip this discussion over to temperatures quickly, because on our all hazards weather map, we do have across the south here, we have the heat, excessive heat warnings, and we've got the heat advisories, and we still have the severe thunderstorm warnings that are out here. You saw right now where those storms are going through. Severe thunderstorm watch, Air quality issues out for parts of Indiana. And then we notice that all of this color in through here, this is a freeze watch with a high wind watch south of it. And this is a freeze warning. And I didn't think I'd be showing you this map for months from now, but this is the newest forecast for the next 7 days as to where we expect to see a frost. And clearly here over parts of the west, as this deep trough dives in, we're going to have some frost in interior locations, like in Oregon, parts of Nevada. From there, let's go have a look at what I didn't want to show you, which is the snowfall forecast. But with that trough coming into British Columbia, let's just play this out here 5 days. So this is to Friday. And we can see that we have the potential for adding a lot of snow here, this part of the Rockies. Then you can see coming in maybe some snow hitting the Cascades, hitting the northern Rockies here as well. So there's some snow in this forecast for these high elevations. From there, this is what the temperatures are up to. Here's today's high temperatures on Sunday, going into Monday and Tuesday. A lot of 90s throughout the Corn Belt here, 110 down here in southern Texas. But watch how cold this air is coming to the northwest. Look at this. Temperatures could be struggling to get into the 60s for a lot of the Pacific Northwest all the way to Montana. And as we just play this forward, the heat's going to stay in that saddle point. By Thursday, cooler air arrives throughout the plains. It's cold under that cutoff low that's over parts of the southeast. We just work our way all the way out to next Saturday. And there's a lot of heat coming into this area, which is going to start to put some stress on the crop. Now, normally I wouldn't care about upper 80s to 90 in this area. That's fine in late June and even in July, as long as there's storms coming through. But we're missing that wet component. We're missing the moisture component out of this. If we just take a look at that 5-day sliding window of average temperature anomalies, we play this out there today, 5 through 10. That's where we sit. So again, we kind of identify this corridor here of warmth because the atmosphere just seems to want to keep going into something like this. And as we play from day 5 through 10 on out, this takes us out to day 10 through 15. The missing components, we're just waiting to get rid of this cold air here, deliver some subtropical flow, or get the subtropical jet to come in like this, just anything to start to bust this pattern apart. But these trends that we just saw here on Sunday were quite disappointing overall with this. Now, there's always one major disrupting factor that can, at some years, come in and change everything, and that would be any activity in the tropics. And the new 7-day outlook from the from the National Hurricane Center is now taking this up to a 90% chance of developing. And should it develop, the models are really unsure on where it's going to go. There are some of the ensemble members that are splitting north like this. Some are going right here into the Caribbean like that. So you can see that there's not a whole lot of consensus just yet on where this is going to go. I've been watching for any sort of development here that could bring something in this direction, but the models, aren't really giving us strong hints on potentially seeing something like that occur. So I just want to bring this up to speed. I'm going to continue to watch it carefully, and we'll do 2 videos on Monday, one in the morning and then one in the evening, so we can kind of get a better look at what this is going to look like before we probably move into a pretty volatile week next week. So I appreciate your attention and hope you all have a great Father's Day. And we'll talk again tomorrow. Thanks.